At this time, I call the Thursday, June 10th meeting of the County Commission to order. We have with us tonight Pastor John Belanger, Senior Pastor at Faith Community Church in Lincoln County, to come and give us our invocation, and we will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Commissioner Tankersley.
Let's pray. God, we thank you for this beautiful night that you've given us to come together, both as community leaders and community members. And I just pray tonight, God, that you would give the leaders of this community, those that sit on this board and represent the members that are here, God, I just pray, God, that you grant them wisdom and strength to do what you've called them to do. We see in your word multiple examples where you gave leaders of nations and leaders of cities supernatural power, supernatural ability to lead in ways they weren't even trained to lead. We see this in Daniel. We see this in Joseph multiple times, God, that you can empower our leaders. And we just pray that would happen for our community, God, that you would grant them wisdom, that you would grant them the ability to not only make the right decisions, but to implement them well. And I just pray, God, your blessings over this community. I've been praying that a lot lately in my personal time. I believe that you bless cities. And I pray that you bless this city, this county. I want this county to be known not only as a city that is just blessed, but blessed because we rely and we lean on you. I pray that you would use us to be a light in what seems to be a pretty dark season culturally and around the world. There's so much negativity. There's so much division. God, use us to be a light in this time. And God, just bring us together. Strengthen us. God, I pray that the things that are discussed tonight will be discussed with love and grace, and that you would again give us the ability to move forward well in what you've called us to do here in Lincoln County. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Belanger, we appreciate you taking time to come and to give us those inspirational words of prayer. And you know you can leave whenever you decide to leave, and you're welcome to stay. In fact, we encourage you to stay. Okay, moving right along, we have item 4 is the approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. Is there a motion that the minutes be approved as sent to you?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Henderson, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion is carried. Item 5 is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion that the agenda be approved as printed and sent to you?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Item number 6, departmental reports. Office of Emergency Services, Director Broom.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. It's always an honor to be here. You have my written report. I do have 2 small things I want to talk about, the first being a very good thing. In January of 2020, 2 of our personnel who were EMT and advanced EMT entered into the paramedic program at Augusta University Medical Center. And we know that right after January, the ugly word happened. So they worked through COVID and teleschooling and all the twists and turns of completing their paramedic program. And as of next week, they will have excelled, passed their courses, and will be licensed as paramedics in the state of Georgia. They work for us. They never missed work except for when they were sick. during the COVID times, and I'm very proud of Ms. Courtney Davis and Ms. Dawn Denton Davis. They have done a great, worked really hard through a difficult time and completed the task. I only want to add line 3 starts off ambulance patrol car, 2 new ambulance stretchers, 3 Tempest Pro cardiac monitors. That's the $313,200 USDA grant program or loan that we've been working since July of 2020. We now have the final closing date, which will be June the 17th. I didn't have that date when I wrote this report. Otherwise, I have nothing to add. If there are any questions, I will be glad to answer them.
Any questions to Director Broom?
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Commissioner Collins?
Director Broom, once these 2 gentlemen have been going to school, are officially licensed, and I think you said next week,
Most probably, yes, sir, unless there's some hiccup in the timing.
will that reduce the number of full-time people we need?
It will produce 2 paramedics, but we will then have 1 AEMT and 1 EMT position open. Because they're moving up.
Okay,
We currently have 2 full-time paramedics with the loss of paramedic Nicholson.
yes.
We were at 50% staffing at the paramedic level, so they're coming up to help take care of that problem. It is typically easier to hire at the EMT, AMT level than it is paramedic.
Okay.
So they're helping us out a bunch, but we still got some work to do.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Quick comment.
Commissioner Clyde?
I want to thank Director Broom for getting the information from Verizon on what kind of coverage we could expect with if they take us up on the tower.
Yes,
on
sir,
the mountain.
they included the 2 other towers.
I saw
So
that.
maybe that's an indication that they intend to act on that.
Yeah, because we all could use a little better service from Verizon in the county. for sure.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director Broom. 6B, Recreation Department, Director Glaze.
Good evening, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. You have my written report in front of you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, Director Glaze? If not, thank you. Thank you for your written report.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Collins?
if you might bring Director Blaze back to the,
Director Glaze, Commissioner Collins.
I just have one question. In reading the notes of the advisory board, what is the backyard soldiers boot camp?
It was an intense, like 30-minute session workout, no weights, just basically high-speed agilities workout, push-up, sit-up. But I don't think that's going, it was on a trial, I don't think it's going to go any further.
Okay.
You only had like 4 people active.
I'd like to call me, Nick. Did she call you about trying
Yes,
to get
ma'am.
some people?
Yes, sir, Miss Lillian Martin.
Yes, sir. Okay, 6C is the Finance Department, Director Dawes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you have my printed reports. I don't have anything else to add.
Any questions to Director Dawes? If not, thank you for your report. 6D is Public Works Director Seymour.
Chairman, members of the board, you have my written reports. I do have one correction on my water report. I think you have a total at the bottom there, 2128. That should be 2178, not 2128.
Should be 21 what?
2178.
That's better.
And you can tell by the numbers, if you look back at last month's, the water expansion project is just about done. Montego subdivision is now currently on, all of them are on county water. So that's the reason you're seeing a little bit of an increase in customer base. I don't have anything to add to my reports as submitted, Chairman, unless there's any questions.
Any questions to Director Seymour? If not, thank you. We do have a written report in our books from Robin Stewart at the University of Georgia Extension Office, and we appreciate that every month. Item 7 is the public hearing. Is there a motion that we go into our public hearing?
So moved, Chairman Norman.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Tankersley, second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, and the motion has carried. We are in our public hearing. Director Seymour.
Yes, sir. On June the 7th of 2021, the Planning Commission heard the following request. The applicant is Lemuel and Margaret Brooks, map and parcel 35B, 006, better known as 1817 Ponderosa Drive, consisting of 0.55 acres, currently zoned R1. The request was to apply for a 3-foot side setback variance to build a carport addition to the side of the home. I don't think Mr. and Ms. Brooks here, but I think it's being represented by the contractor who is here. And my board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the 3-foot setback variance, Chairman.
You heard a request from Director Seymour, that recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve. Is there a motion that we accept the recommendation to approve this from to a special use?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Collins, second by Commissioner Clyde. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Ask for public comment?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak for this? I'm assuming you are. You're gonna build it, is that right? Okay. You don't want to speak though. Is there anybody here in opposition to it? If not, all in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye. Did we do that?
We did, yes.
Okay, we're going on then. 7B is the applicant from Mr. Wade H. Buckle, Director Seymour.
Yes, sir. On June the 7th, the Planning Commission also heard the request from Mr. Wade Burkham, map 06A, parcel 002, better known as 1028 Lakeview Drive, consisting of 0.87 acres, currently zoned R2. And the request is to rezone to C1 for the purpose of an RV park. This property has been an RV park for quite some time, dating back to, the best we can tell, sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. When rezoning took place in the county in 2003, this piece of property was grandfathered in. However, their business license lapsed, which means their grandfather clause has been negated. So they're asking to rezone this piece of property to C1 for the purpose of an RV park. My board recommends approval unanimously with the 2 following conditions: that no more than 13 RV sites be allowed, which is what's there currently today. And number 2 is that if it ceases to be an RV park, then it automatically reverts back to R2 zoning.
Okay. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor of the request to change it from R2 to C1? If they would come to the podium, when you get to the podium, state your name and address.
Named Marvin Wilbanks. I live at Fishing Creek out there. Kind of looking after that park. Been kind of looking after it for a couple of years now, but the guy that owned it lived over in South Carolina, so he kind of let it run down. But we're looking at making it better than what it has been. Only want to do good things for the county since I'm part of the county and live in that community. And that's, you know, that's about it. We just want to be part of the community and be good for the community.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else here to speak for this zoning? Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the zoning? Yes, ma'am, if you would come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
First off, I'd like to give you some pictures of the campground.
Okay, if you would, just state your name and
Yes,
address.
sir. My name is Teresa Jones. I live at 1076
Your
3rd.
name is what?
Teresa Jones.
Okay.
I live at 1076
Yes,
3rd
ma'am.
Street in Fishing. First off, I'll thank y'all for your time. As y'all know, we're here about the campground at Fish Creek. My family and I have lived there for 34 plus years, long enough for Ray Striblin to tag us as FL and not NFL. Over the years, the campground has grown. Back in the 90s, when it was young and used for the correct purpose, campers, hunters, and fishermen, and not a permanent home, it wasn't a problem. But now, with all of the people there full-time and part-time, it has become a problem. It's almost an acre to trying to put up to 16 campers at one time in there. With all the trucks, the cars, and the boats, it gets quite crowded. With only one septic tank, which at times stinks. They're also on the community well, which causes the neighborhood to have either low water pressure or no water at all. I have my own well. The noise, gunshots, yelling, loud music at night, the smells of the septic, the drug use, actions of some of the full-timers are slopping over into the neighborhood. I know of no other campground in the nation that is in a neighborhood. I checked. I live almost the furthest from the campground, and we still get problems from it. For example, I was waking one night at 3 o'clock in the morning by headlights flashing into my home. Had no clue what was happening. I stepped onto my front porch and heard an engine revving. Saw headlights through the woods in front of my house going around and around. Well, someone was doing donuts on private property, which is trespassing. Then, when they took off, they hit a tree on another person's property. Afterwards, he drove to a house, kicked in the neighbor's door, found something to drink, drank it. When he left, he forgot his hat. It wasn't till later that day I found out who it was, which is Marvin, previous speaker's son. And he lives full-time at the campground and was drunk, which makes me furious. I hate drunk driving, period. Also, the children or grandchildren of the campground people drive ATVs, mules, and other things through the neighborhood like insane people. My husband had a stroke 4 years ago, and he stresses out when they come past our house insanely fast or stops just before a gate, revving the engine. Then they start to tear out, trying to upset my dog to chase them, which I have a very good dog. Every time they stop there, my dog starts barking, which alerts my husband. Then they sling gravel around the corner, do donuts at the intersection at our road and the other road. I have spoken to the parents of the neighborhood and asked that they have children, please have them slow down at my house. Not stop, just slow down. I just want to let people know I'm installing security cameras on the frontage of my property along 3rd Street as well as along my property on Fisherman's Lane. I have 2. I will call the police and have them view at this and arrest anyone doing these things. This is the caliber of people they have living in the campground. If the campground is zoned C1, they will later want to expand. There's been talk about boat storage buildings and other items. They also want to expand the campground, which I don't like. As to the people living full-time in the campground, if you love the area as much as you say at the previous meeting, why don't you go buy property here and start paying property taxes, as we all do, not just living here with no support for the county. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you for those remarks. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak against? Yes, ma'am. Could you come to the podium and state your name and address, please, ma'am?
I wanted to thank you for letting us talk. My name is Joanne Hamley. We live at 1006 Fisherman's Lane, which is just right down the road from the campground. I mean, you can see everything, you can hear everything that goes on up there. This is the meeting for the commissioners to decide if the campground is to be zoned as CA1 or remain CA2. I think we're wasting our time in the community because the commissioners' minds are already made up. We purchased the property in 1999. We moved here approximately 3 to 4 years ago. When we purchased the property, the campground was there. It had 1 or 2 campers in it. When we purchased that property, I don't know if you remember, but there were murders going on in the community. There were drugs, they were drinking, a lot of riffraff coming in. The subdivision is no longer that way. The subdivision has come a long way since 1999 and has a long way to go. This is not about the store, it's about the campground. The commissioners rezoned the property in 2003 as R2. We demand it stay R2 and not be zoned C1, as because of the campground wanting to expand as storage buildings and boat sheds storage. Marvin is the campground maintenance man and has been there approximately a year and a half. He purchased a house across the road from the campground and still has his camper there in the campground, which his son lives in. The law has been up there at the campground arresting people back in 2019 for drugs, alcohol. When COVID hit last year, 2020, Marvin is not a licensed, does not have any kind of license of any trade, but yet he did the electrical, the plumbing, the building, but yet he said the prior owner from South Carolina did all this. He did it on the weekends where the zoning people could not come out and check on it. Although the campground had no permits for this, all of it was done within the last year. You can't take Marvin as his word. It wasn't done just a year ago. It was done a year and a half ago. A lot of the campers were there because of Broad River, Pestis Ferry, and Elijah Clark was full due to COVID. But people that came to the campground couldn't get reservations in those 3 campgrounds or any other campgrounds. The campground is less than an acre. They're trying to put 13 to 16 campers in it. It's only big enough for 8 to 10 campers at the most. At more than that, and it will overflow the sewage. It will cause water shortages. Memorial Day, they did have 16 campers up there, and it's nothing but a hangout for the drunks. Even the neighborhood drunks go up there to party. You have approximately 6 people that wants it zoned C1. You've got 29 that's wanting it zoned as R2. The 29 lives in the subdivision. Shouldn't the majority rule? I hope this keeps as R2. We're trying to better the neighborhood, not take it back in the 90s like it once was. You would think the commissioners would want to help the subdivision to keep it going forward, because I can remember those days and you can too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak against it? Yes, ma'am, if you would come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, good evening. My name is Natasha Vecino. My husband and I, we reside at 1111 Lakeview Lane. It's at the subdivision. I would like to concur with the statements from the previous residents as well. That is very true. I would also like to add in that there has been an increased amount of traffic that it's joyriding. It is not just riding around, going to your spot, or going to a neighbor's house. It has been a significant increase, and our road cannot handle that. There's ruts, and they're actually significantly big. You know, it will cause damage to the vehicles, and it takes them quite a while to get out to the resident to scrape the roads. So I feel that that is a detriment to our community, to the people who are there every day. So there's children who live in the community. There's children that are at the campground, and when they joyride, they don't just get on golf carts. They're on ATVs. The ATVs are very loud. So there's some elderly people who are in our community. That causes a ruckus because when they are riding, dogs in the community, they raise Cain. So it's not, if you go into I remember camping when I was a child. You know, that is a special designated area that's only for camping, campground, boats, you know, those sort of activities. But when you're bringing this into a community, you have a disruption to those people that are in the community. And like my own personal dog, he's a guard dog, but the ATVs, they cause him to raise Cain. He's in our home, so if you're doing your activities, you're on the phone, and he's raising Cain, it causes you a disruption. There's also things that are happening from the people that are coming in that I've had my purse stolen out of my car. There was a night to where it was just me and my children in the home. My husband was not there. I had somebody to open my back door. Luckily, I had the guard dog, and as soon as he took off to the door was shut. I expect in my community and my home to be extremely safe. I don't expect to have to wonder and worry who's coming into my community that night, who's staying temporarily, who's staying permanently. Because there's a huge sign that's on part of their buildings. It says weekly, monthly, yearly rentals. That's too long. That's also cheating our community, because if they're living there, they're not paying taxes to our community. And to those roads that they're destroying, y'all are having to come in and fix that. That's also, I literally have to have a rotational an alignment on my vehicle very often because that road is tore up. We have culverts that have been smashed, that our property does not drain. My home literally has been damaged because of the water and the runoff. And I think that's highly unfair to my family. So to bring in people into this community who don't live here, who do not pay taxes, and cause a disruption to our community, I don't think that that's fair to our community. And I know probably living in the city is annoying enough, but when you come out into the county, you expect to have a level of peacefulness. You can't have that in this community because 2, 3 o'clock at night, you do not know who's going to run down that road gunning their engine. And then you're in a dead sleep and you have dogs in the community, not just mine, that raise Cain. And so it causes such a huge disruption. I would love for it to be peaceful in a campground that is an actual campground, not for our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against the zoning change? Anyone else? Before we do this, let me make just a few comments. I really appreciate all three of you coming and addressing us. I'm sure you were probably at the zoning meeting Monday night. Normally, how this works is the commissioners has the final say-so, and the planning and zoning board is a recommendation board that recommends approval or denial before it gets to us. Once, Director Seymour, I want you to raise your hand if I'm wrong, but once it gets to this point, we have three choices. One to vote in favor, one to vote against, or one to send it back to the planning commission for further study. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
That's the only three things we can do tonight.
That is correct.
We have to kill it, we have to vote for it, or we can send it back for further study. So, are you the lady that's called me several times about your washing problem up there, right off the highway? I know who you are. I'm glad to put a face with it.
We have issues with the water runoff. It's very bad. It's not just water runoff, it's pregnant.
Okay. I know you were talking, but I couldn't hear you unless you come to this, but I think that'll pick it up. This is up to each and every member of the board as to how they're going to vote. I don't think that there's been any decision made as to how we're going to vote because we've not discussed it until tonight. It came up in our work session, which was earlier this afternoon, just as all three of them did. It wasn't no long discussion. I went to Fishing Creek, as I do fairly often, but I went up Sunday afternoon. Me and my wife rode up there and drove through every road, and I rode through the campground. Well, let me rephrase that. I tried to ride through the campground. It was blocked I couldn't go all the way through. If I understand it correctly, if the commission votes in favor of the recommendation, which is to change it from R2 to C1, which is light, industry light, that's what the store was. I heard each and every one of you mostly say the same thing, which is good, of what the problems were. The only thing that concerned me, and I'm one of five, is the fact that the campground has been there for so long. If I've ever had a complaint on the campground up until recently, and I've been here off and on along 40 years, so I haven't ever had one on it. To try to keep the campground as it has been for almost, 25 years, Ms. Hanley, is that how long? I think the best we could tell on records, somewhere in the late 80s or early 90s, that campground came into effect. So it's been there a long time. The water and the sewage concerned me when I talked with Director Seymour about it and others last week. We had Johnny Watson, who's the environmentalist at the health department, who handles the sewer problem, wastewater septic tank, to send us a letter and brief us up on the sewage. I can tell you, I think it's too tight. If it was a new existing campground, this commissioner would never be in favor of approving it. With that said, being an existing campground, that we will not allow, if we accept this recommendation, to expand. It will not go to any more than 13 campsites. As far as buying property on those existing little old lots below it, to make the campground bigger, this commissioner would vote against it. I would never vote to allow anything other than what's been there for the last 25 years or so. That's my comments. You know, I understand exactly what you're saying. If I lived there, I'd probably be sitting over there with you against it. Zoning issues are tough anytime they come before us. You know, you're gonna make somebody mad, you're gonna make somebody glad, and you have to try to do what you think is right. I understand the fact that the possibility of a lot of alcohol, drugs, or whatever could be going on, which it can be in any subdivision or any campground. I'm satisfied it is at Elijah Clark, all the rest of them is drinking and some drug activity, I would think. That is not a part that comes under us unless the sheriff, through his deputies that answer the calls, we would have no idea if the sheriff's department's been called 1 time or 20 times. We don't know. Unless we have had occasions, and it's rare, and it hadn't been with this sheriff, but the sheriff would come to the commissioners and ask us to do something with something because he's had these problems. This has never been done, or it hadn't been done in the last 5 years. That the sheriff has come and said, we're getting too many complaints at such and such a place, and we need to look into it. I'm gonna defer it to Director Seymour just a minute and let him, probably most of you heard it the other night, don't know whether all of us did, but if you can just talk a little bit about the sewer and water problems that we got there. You know, I know that we are not getting, if the campers are registered in Lincoln County, you get a little something. You don't get much on a camper anyway. If it's brand new. But taxes are being paid on the property, the land that's there. Somebody's paying the taxes on it. Before I turn it over to him, though, another thing is, and I hope people hear this by ways of how they hear it. Anywhere you go, whether it's Lincoln County or any other county that has zoning, and most of them do, before land is purchased or you decide and you want to do something, you need to check with the office across the street to be sure you can do what you want to do. You know, it did come out of compliance as far as the business license not being bought for a year or 2 years or however long it's been. And that's what brought it all, I think, to this situation. I don't know whether it was done intentionally or whether it was not done intentionally, but once a complaint was made on something being put on the property that was not in compliance with the county codes, that's when we would know, Robbie's office was notified, and when they investigated, is when we realized that was not even a business license at the property. Had the business license continued to have been being paid, and I think it was just inadvertently done, I would assume, or if they had not tried to put a building in that wouldn't go, we wouldn't even be having this conversation tonight. It would be that. So I tend to think that they are trying to be in compliance with the county as the reason that they came and asked for zoning to be done. Now, again, you heard the recommendation, there will be no more than 13, if that's what's up there today. And if the campground ceases to exist, it will automatically revert back to an R2 zone. It won't continue to be a C1 zone. The store has always operated in an R2 zone because until 2003, we've had very little zoning. So it was all grandfathered in. So to get the store in compliance after it had been shut down for so many years, then they had to get it changed to the right zone to be able to, they couldn't have the store on the R2 zone in today's operation. So that went through without any problem.
Yes, sir. So I had a conversation with Mr. Watson, which is the state environmentalist with the health department here. We had received a phone call, I think, Tuesday after Memorial Day, with concerns about smell and septic issues on this property. And so I had a conversation with Mr. Watson, and he went and walked the entire property, even down on the core, and he told me that he saw no leakage, no spills, no anything up there, and that they do have permitted septic tanks in the campground. One is for the bathhouse and then one for the dump station. So I think 7 of these campsites have sewage to them and 6 do not. So they have to use the dump station. And so you're probably going to get a little bit of smell from time to time when people are dumping tanks into those dump stations. The water system is a EPD approved water system through the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. And so I can't speak much about the water system other than that system is a permitted system. They may very well have times that they have lack of water or decrease in pressure because of the usage. But that's going to happen even if you get those undeveloped lots that are built on at some point in time. So, that's about all I can tell you on the water and the sewer. But they are in compliance with both.
Are there any comments by members of the board? Commissioner Henderson.
I have a question. If I remember right, when we did the store, it was a variance to allow that to operate as a store. Am I correct?
No, sir. It was zoned R2 as well. It was grandfathered in, just like the campground was. And so when it shut down, they had to come back before Planning Commission and this board to obtain a C1. So they were rezoned C1.
So we did the same thing for them?
It is the same, yes, same thing.
Okay.
Any other commissioner? Okay, we're going to vote one way or the other. We can vote to approve, or we can vote to disapprove, or we can vote to send it back for further study to the another one. But the recommendation that we have is to approve the zoning change from R2 to C1. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that's what we need to see it happens before we go to do we need to vote up or down on the recommendation, or do we need to send, or we need to vote just to, I don't know how they're gonna vote unless we vote on whether or not we want to send it to I don't want to vote and then can't re-vote to send it back to the planning commission. Can we vote? And if it don't pass, or if it passes, somebody else can make another motion to send it back to what's my parliamentary procedure on this?
I would vote, if that is a question, I would vote on the issue first to determine whether or not to send it back.
I got you. The recommendation is that we vote to change it from R2 to C1. I ask for a motion.
Excuse me, Chairman, that's not exactly what you're saying, is it?
I'm sorry.
Is that what you were saying, that that's what we needed to do?
No, sir, I'm not saying that's what we should.
The way I understood it, that the first thing that we should do is vote whether we need to send it back.
Okay, I did it backwards then.
Is that what you were saying?
Right, what I'm saying is, I think if you were to vote it down, there would then be a period required for the folks to have to reapply and go through all of that process. So what I'm saying is, the first vote should determine whether or not to send it back to the planning and zoning.
I got you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion that we send it back to the planning and zoning department for further study? If that happens, it will be back on the agenda next month now. Is there a motion for that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to send it back to planning and zoning, is there a second?
Second. I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Henderson, second by Commissioner Tankersley, to send it back to the planning and zoning. Is there a second? Now, is there any discussion? Chair hears none, all in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign?
Opposed.
Okay, we got a, you vote yea.
I'd be yes, yes, sir.
We got a 3-1 vote. Chairman only votes by rules unless it's a tie. So the motion is carried that we send it back to the planning and zoning for further study. It will be back on the agenda next month, is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, that's what it is. Is there a motion that we come out of our public hearing?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Item number 8 is County Commission Ethics. Mr. Al Gray. Mr. Gray, if you come to the podium, state your name and address. And as you know, you have 5 minutes to address the vote.
I'm Al Gray, 2573 Salem Church Road in Lincolnton, or Lincoln County. Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Ethics begins and ends with the fragile element of trust. When this commission makes a forever commitment to keep the right-of-way cleared for visibility, your chairman admits that duty, but blames another for granting it, only to revert to an ultimatum to the prior landowner in denying it. There can be no trust. When this commission frolics in the misrepresentation of land use by one permitting lots advertised as lakefront, when there's a designated federal public hunting area documented to be in the way, and then 2 allows the blockage of Booth Branch Road, and then a chaotic reversal of that decision after 12 months of being forewarned, there can be no trust. When this commission passes zoning overlays and other restrictions to complicate zoning enforcement, that requires adequate staffing. Otherwise, it's an intentional ruse designed to reward political allies and impose costs on others. Excuses that you have only one code enforcement officer who cannot inspect more remote developments is an intentional violation of equal protection of most citizens. Nothing is more unethical or discriminatory. When we see members of the commission whose businesses and related businesses apparently seek and get more than $130,000 in federal bailout loans under the CARES Act and the PPP program, which can become outright grants or actually gifts, questions arise. When one of those members has as his wife the Lincolnton branch manager of the bank that initiated and administers much, even most of that money, the ethical potential breach is a chasm. Savers, depositors, and even county government itself have dollar deposits. One of those deposit dollars only produces a new dollar after more than 100 years, and it's even more than that the rates the county is paid. Yet this paycheck protection program loan that turns into a gift or a grant are new dollars immediately available to be spent, and spent they were, and I'm sure you're seeing the evidence of it. On top of the CARES money, large cash depositors who see all this going on are pulling their cash and investing it in necessities. That's making everybody's costs go up too. Not a lot of people understand that. That's what's happening. Prices have exploded. Everybody can see it. It's in the news. It's in your face. Our government employees, every employee of this county, have to wait to get their pension money to spend, but this program provided money up front.
Finance Director Doss allowed me to review the county bank statements on Wednesday. If he shows you the general fund account statement for the year ended December 31st, 2020, during which most of those grants were made, you will simply be shocked at the pitiful interest our money is earning. I think I'll make a copy and bring it next time. To restore trust, you need to honor your legal commitments on that right of way. You need to disclose clearly conflicting uses in lakefront areas. Either eliminate that overlay or apply non-discriminatory enforcement and seek guidance on the ethics of having commissioners with apparently secret federal loans, grants, gifts, potentially in the hands of other commissioners. Finally, when you get caught in messes, don't change direction repeatedly after being forewarned. Until you do, there will be no trust, and the rest of us will be proud to be not from Lincoln, while folks you have known for a lifetime grow to see how they have been victimized too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. On some parts of that the federal government did, I kind of tend to agree with you. Okay. My agenda. Okay, number 9 is the Title VI Federal Assistance Program Director Seymour.
Yes, sir. Chairman, members of the board, you have in your book the Title VI Federal Assistance Plan. This plan is designed for transportation projects with federal assistance, federal funding in it, to protect civil rights and discrimination. This is required for any project that has federal highway administration dollars in it. And I ask tonight that y'all approve the Title VI plan. I think y'all have had it for some time now. I think the county attorney's actually looked at it as well. And I ask for approval of this plan tonight, Chairman.
I think we all know what it is that it just basically says that we take federal monies from the Federal Department of Transportation. We have to follow the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and I think 1987. Basically what this is the county has applied for and received approximately $1.8 million for a TAP grant, transportation and what's that TAP stand for? Transportation Assistance Grant, a transportation assistance grant, which requires a 20% match from the county, which would be used from our splash funds if this is done. But this is just simply saying that we will apply with the federal guidelines as far as discriminatory and all of this. Is there a motion that gives me the authority to sign the VI Federal Assistance Plan on behalf of the county?
So moved.
That's second. Motion by Commissioner Tankersley, second by Commissioner Clyde. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Item number 10 is amendment to ordinance section 34-314. This will be the second reading. Mr. Jackson, if you will give us our second reading on 34-314, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Section 34-314, Maintenance of Improvements. It is requested to make the following changes. The developer shall be required to maintain all required public improvements on the individual subdivided lots until acceptance of the improvements by the Board of Commissioners. If there are any certificates of occupancy issued on a street and the street is not dedicated to the county may effect emergency repairs and charge those costs to the developer. Following the acceptance of the dedication of any public improvement by the county, the Board of Commissioners may, in its sole discretion, require that the subdivider to maintain the improvement for a period of 1 year from the date of acceptance. However, under no circumstances shall the Board of Commissioners accept any road or street until at least 25% of all lots have been issued a certificate of occupancy for a residential dwelling.
Thank you for the second reading. This has been posted on the county's website, which I encourage people to look at the county website most of the time daily. If you're looking for a job, or public notices and agendas of meetings and so much other stuff on it. Director Seymour, do you have any other comments?
No, sir.
Is there a motion that we approve the amendment to section 34-314 of maintenance and improvements of roads?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Collins, second by Commissioner Henderson. Any further discussion on the motion?
I got one quick question.
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman.
Clyde.
Director Seymour, the only thing we had this, the only thing we had changed is the report in red, right?
That is
We added
correct,
those
yes, sir.
issues to it, right? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other commissioner? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And the motion's carried. Item number 11 is the Board of Tax Assessors Consulting Agreement. We have Chief Tax Appraiser, Mr. Kitty Adair.
Good evening. This agenda item is asking for your approval of a contract, agreement/contract for some expertise consulting help in updating our appraisal, valuation tables and schedules, with some expertise help. As I discussed earlier with some of you all, I think everyone to a certain degree understands what has happened in the real estate market in the last year. And in essence, what this is for help in helping the Board of Assessors and our staff comply with state law and maintaining proper and accurate assessments of real property.
Okay, basically what they're doing is this has come from the Board of Tax Assessors to the County Commissioners because the Board of Tax Assessors cannot sign a contract. The County Commissioners are the only ones that can do that, and to see to it that they are still within budget, which we were told they are.
And the Board of Assessors has approved this, of the hiring of the consultant for us, but it's up to the county to provide the funding, which I think.
Okay. All right, we see this $500 per day, and it can be a half a day basis, and we've discussed that. I would like to ask for a motion that we allow me to sign this contract on behalf of the county for them to do this. This is probably, what'd you say, about 20, 25 days at the most.
The projection date of August the 1st is where the completion.
So they would come in pretty quick.
Yes.
Okay, and I think we've agreed to, and I say we've agreed that about $12,500 would be the cap.
Correct.
And if it went over that, then we would come back to the commission.
Correct.
Director Dawes, you've stated that they're within their budget and they have the funds to pay for this.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion giving me the authority to sign it on behalf of the county?
I'll make that motion, Chairman Norman.
Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Tangley, second by Commissioner Clyde. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Item 12 on the agenda. Interim financing resolution for Farmer State Bank, Montego Point. Director Dawes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have an existing interim financing loan with Farmer State Bank on our Montego Water project. That project, while wrapping up, will not complete before the end of this loan, and so I'm asking the board to renew this.
Is that our sign or what? Time just ran out.
I'm asking the board to renew a resolution to continue the interim financing with Farmer State Bank for another year on the loan, which was $1,570,000. All of the loan and the expense of the loan will be paid back by the USDA and the grant loan program. We have to get the project finished, that part finished, spend all of the loan dollars, and then once we spend the loan dollars, the USDA will pay off those, and then we can start spending the grant dollars, and then we would pay back the USDA over 30 years. Is that correct, Director Seaman? 40 years. We would pay back the loan over 40 years to the USDA.
Director Dawson, is it not true that this is for a 12-month period, but that's what they require us to do, but if we do it in 90 days, we can pay it off and be through with it?
Yes, sir. This is
Anytime during that 12-month period, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we understand this, and is there a motion to give me the authority to sign the resolution for the interim financing for this project?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Henderson made the motion, Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Tankersley seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign, motion's carried. Well, we getting on down here to the crazy train. Item 13, can you believe y'all got that one? That should have been that public hearing, then we shouldn't. Item 13, alcoholic beverage license for the Crazy Train, Clerk McKellar.
Yes, sir, you have coming before you Mr. Jimmy Rayborn, owner of the Crazy Train Incorporated, for a Class B license, beer and wine on premises. He has met all his requirements.
Okay, you've heard the request from Mr. Rayborn presented by the clerk for a Class B beer and wine on premises. For those of you that don't know and listening by social media or whatever, the Crazy Train is located at Clyde's Crossing at the Augusta Highway at 220 in the little red caboose. When you gonna open? Huh? What do you say?
First.
July the 1st. So July the 1st, you can go down to the Crazy Train and eat, drink, and be merry. All right, is there a motion that we grant the beer and wine on premises Class B to them?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion by Commissioner Collins. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm going to abstain, Mr. Chairman, since I have ownership.
Okay. Let the record show that Commissioner Clyde has abstained. And his reason is that he has ownership in the property. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion's carried. So, I guess you step across the hall and see Sherry and pay us a big sum of money and get you a piece of paper and hang it on the wall. All right, we're moving right along. I thought we was gonna get a good rain. Are we getting rain out there?
Got one in Dover Branch.
Did. That's where you need it, isn't it? Okay, property, item 14 is property and liability insurance renewal, Clerk McKellar.
Yes, sir, you have before you the renewal proposal from ACCG IRMA. This year is for a 12-month period, where last year when we did the insurance, it was just 11 months. The renewal is coming in at $95,427. Last year for 11 months, it was $83,968.
Okay, we've got our ACCG proposal for our liability insurance. It has got a increase, I believe, of somewhere around $3,800 for the 12-month period. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what percentage that is. Stan, you can calculate that quick in your head, I imagine.
Less than 3%.
Less, it's about a
Less
little
than
less.
4%.
Less than 4% increase in the county's liability insurance. That's on the vehicles and all that stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Buildings.
The buildings, the vehicles, personal property, yeah, all that.
Okay, is there a motion that we approve the payment with the ACCG for the county's insurance amount of $95,427?
I made that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I want Commissioner Collins to second that motion if he would, since we spending money. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion's carried. Item 15 is the adjournment. Is there a motion that we adjourn?
I made that motion, Mr. Chairman.
That's the hardest motion ever to get, except some zoning issues. Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Tankersley. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried, and we stand adjourned.